want to see
Like
it?
this is forever. Like the people that I became friends with when I was here, we are like friends now. I can remember this being crazy.
Hello, guys. My name is Sydney Johnson. I am a mechanical engineering major, and I will graduate this December 2023.
Nice. Joe White graduated in 1998 with a degree in Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering.
Tylen Rudolph, I'm a sophomore in Industrial and Systems Engineering, and I will graduate in December of 2024.
I'm Cherith Fluker, a 2001 graduate of the College of Liberal Arts in English.
Hello, my name is Christian Ford. I am a junior majoring in electrical engineering, and I'll be graduating in May of 2024.
So, Sheriff and I graduated a little while ago. We had a different understanding of what campus life was like when we were there. Student recruiters, working at the football games, playing the football games, tour guides, and everything else. What was campus like for y'all, so we can kind of get an understanding exactly what's changed through the decades?
Coming on campus, especially after the height of COVID, I grew up coming and being on campus around Auburn all the time, so I really wasn't shocked to see. I was actually really excited to get on campus and get involved. But coming after COVID, looking at the fact that there was basically dang near 2 freshman classes. You had 2 sets of people, really big-eyed, ready to see and experience campus. Community-wise, especially within the College of Engineering, that made it great for us because, we weren't the only ones as freshmen walking around wondering what to do or how to get involved. It was one big melting pot of eagerness, ready to embrace campus. As far as everything on my experience has been great. I'm a student recruiter as well.
Nice.
That was really been a highlight of my Auburn experience. And tripling back down to curriculum-wise, I think it's been interesting to see how we've come out of COVID and how we're now kind of looking at how COVID has affected, whether you're a freshman, a sophomore, or a junior now, your whole entire academic career. And I think we're all kind of looking at that now as students and feeling those woes and navigating that space. But overall, it's been great.
Thanks.
For me, I came to campus one time prior to stepping on campus as a student, and I came at the height of COVID. So I came prior to coming on campus for engineering day, and I got to see a little bit of Auburn and the atmosphere that it usually is. And then when I came back, at times it's kind of like a ghost town. It was a little different. I mean, the Auburn feeling was still there because of just the community and the people I met. I could just tell they truly wanted to be a part of the Auburn family. And that was just a great experience I had my freshman year. And then coming back as a sophomore, I really got to see the larger community of Auburn and see all the friendly faces and get to meet my professors for the first time and just see how invested they are in the students and how they truly want you to and help you succeed.
Well, my experience is much different. I never stepped foot on campus until I got there the first day. So, arriving there, especially as a transfer student, I didn't know really what to do or where to go to really get into my Auburn experience. So basically, I went to AP, which is something that, of course, these two know. I'm pretty sure you know about it as well. So AP is something that really got me inside the Auburn experience and learn and meet people. So I would say that's my biggest takeaway from my first semester.
Nice.
I know you're like me from a small town, so for me, I was so overwhelmed when I came here. I graduated with 50 people. And when I got here, I think one of my first classes had over 200 people in it. So I was very overwhelmed and kind of worried about how I would find my place. But like you said, that intentionality of alums and even people on campus just kind of directing you to finding your place. And that made a big difference, getting involved early so that I could get my friend group, which is still my friend group to this day. That made a big part of it. And like you said, that Auburn feeling, it is there and you can feel it, but you just have to find your place in it. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and I was very similar to your experience. Heard about Auburn most of my high school adult life, so to speak. I went to a fundraiser or Jefferson County Club in Alabama, Birmingham area. Heard about Auburn, saw Bo Jackson and Pat Dye, so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to one of these. Of course, then I had to wait to the money, right? The money was where I decided to go. The weekend before I came, or the month before I came, they used to have the Old South Parade. And we've come a long way since then. The way y'all transitioned Auburn was a different experience. So we were going down, there's a group of us from Birmingham, I met from the Jefferson County Club, And we're going down to Auburn and we see the Old South Parade and it's like CNN, it's everywhere. And it's like, oh wow, this doesn't seem like it's welcoming. First time on campus, it's an amazing experience. We didn't have Camp War Eagle. This is pre-Camp War Eagle, pre-AP. This is just folks coming together trying to find that sense of family, and we found it. There are a group of us that live in the dorms that are now torn down.
Yeah. I live
You're
there.
very familiar. So a lot of us alum will remember it, but we were all that sense of family, trying to understand exactly how we're living as our new college-age adults coming through campus, and that sense of Auburn was there, sense of family. But we also a sense of pride of just trying to make sure we stay together. Some of us were engineering, some of us were pre-engineering, and then after that first calculus, some of us were not engineers. But we still stayed in touch, as Chef was saying. So the experience of having to try to foster that familyhood amongst people that look like ourselves was part of the struggle, but it was overcome very quickly. And what you saw in the paper and what you saw on CNN for Old South, you look at progression today, I'm very happy to see your experience is a lot different from what we got today. But also it's because of the networking people do behind the scenes, what y'all do every day and what you bring back, and then being very open and candid. Sharon, I haven't seen her in over a decade, I think.
Yes.
But we're in touch in Facebook, and we still have the same type of groups of friends that, you know, help support Auburn. We're both now on the Black Alumni Council, so that sense of family kind of fosters itself over time. So it's great to see us evolve past where we were.
I think the reason that I think like me, Christian, and Sydney have had such good experiences on campus is because of the groundwork that your generation really did lay. I think the fact that, especially being within the College of Engineering, being one of the top schools in the country that produces Black engineers, not many people even know that statistic. But because of the groundwork that you guys laid and the culture that you cultivated and the high bar that you guys set within school and post-graduation in your careers, it kind of changed the environment on campus within the College of Engineering especially, but within our faculty and also within student involvement. You guys came on campus, you did it more than right, and you really opened the door for us to step into those shoes and grow within our roles all across campus and really enjoy it. So for that, I want to say thank you.
Right, and what you said is absolutely true because it was the same for us. I'm from Talladega. Harold Franklin, one of the first or the first Black student here. You know, you kind of felt like you owed it to him to come in and find your place and to leave a mark on this campus and to know that you belong here and that you can do everything that any student is doing. You know, those opportunities are available to you. So you're right, just looking back and kind of using that as your motivation to be excellent.
Yeah. And the leaders we had when we stepped foot on campus, we're trying to cultivate the same thing, but you got to get the numbers and then the people that want to buy in. Ayana Card is still, when I came to Black Student Union, she's the president of Black Student Union. She kind of led a lot of the efforts to try to get rid of the Old South Parade. And then also just cultivate that sense of fosterhood on campus. And she did a great job with that. But she also, each one teach one. She made sure you brought up someone else through the legacy to try to make sure people were going to be, once you graduate, who's left behind to still carry that torch to move through. We started seeing things like, you know, Hank Aaron coming to be our speaker for our Black History Month. We started getting people involved with SGA to be senators under the SGA cabinet. And then folks involved the UPC where they were making the key business decisions. So we learned how to kind of have that fosterhood and then also cultivate, be a student recruiter, be a tour guide, know about the campus, help foster that. So when people come to campus, was their first time on campus, never been here before, and they get here, they know a familiar face who can also show them the Auburn tradition, the Auburn family, and it helped out a lot.
Familiar face is another thing that you know stands out when you said that. Letitia Dura, who is the spirit coordinator, she was a recruiter when I met her. You know, the first time I met her, and to watch her career from Auburn as a recruiter and now directing, you know, spirit and community relations, it's just amazing to watch that and making that connection. So I kind of felt like when I got here that I knew somebody, and that was helpful too. So.
What are the things you're seeing on campus? Because you're now in a totally different world from Auburn, not just from the generational perspective, but post-COVID. What are the things that you're saying like, wow, this has been amazing since COVID that you come out of it that's probably wasn't part of the Auburn tradition you saw before?
I think as Auburn's admissions numbers are changing, I hate to say quality of the Auburn student, because everyone who graduates from Auburn is great, right? But the type of Auburn student is changing and morphing into something new. I think the level of not only success, but per intellectual power that sits around us within our classrooms and within our organizations is quite astounding. Looking at where these individuals may come from, looking at what they can go do, and looking at what we're doing within this space now. Looking at, I think in the past, you couldn't take engineering physics You could take engineering physics before taking Cal 1 or while at the same time. Now you just can't do that because of the rigor of the program. We're looking at, our retention numbers within the College of Engineering or as a university as a whole, and how they relate back to the work that, Dr. Roberts did, and now Dr. Taffy Clayton is carrying that on as well. How intentional that was, and how it has morphed into now we're becoming this academic institution that is a powerhouse, so if you want to really say it for what it is. And on campus, like we use with the NASB conference, we walk around and people look at us with our Auburn lapel pins or our Auburn name tags on, they're like, oh, they're going to Auburn, interesting. Or one woman even said it really plain to me in the airport. She's like, I didn't know Auburn had that many Black people. We were like, yes. We've come a long way. So that was really what I would say. That's really good.
So you're asking what is the difference between pre-COVID and COVID, like afterwards?
Yeah.
Or like, I mean, I haven't really seen the difference.
Okay.
I have, of course, before I came here, there's ladies who've been in the same program as me, come from Spelman to Auburn. And they told me, I don't want to, change your mind about these types of things, but, just come and see the campus first. So I really don't know what pre-COVID looked like. So supposedly it looked, was very different from what we have now. But I don't know. Black Auburn has been really good to me. So, we have a good community. Everyone really wants to get together, make sure everyone is safe, everyone is, learning good, make sure that I'm good in my classes. So I believe that, it looks nice now. I mean, it feels great. So I don't know.
I came in height of COVID, so I think I have a pretty good perspective of the difference. During COVID, my interactions with the Black community were pretty limited, only because we had a lot of things. I joined NSBE early, but we had it online, so I didn't really get to meet them face to face. And then we had AEP as well, but it was also predominantly online, so I didn't get to have that community. But coming out of COVID, I remember going to my first BSU meeting. That was one of the still to this day, one of the best experiences I've ever had. It was just so fun getting to see that community here, and getting to see that while from the outside looking in it may look like we have sort of a small community. I mean, for me it felt very large, and it felt like a family, and I was immediately welcomed, and it was just a great experience.
Mm-hmm. And it is so nice to have that feeling of just home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like we're trying to separate ourselves from, the larger Auburn community, but it is so nice to just have that safe space to be able to talk about things that other people just can't relate to, And then it's not always even about the conversation, it's just being amongst. Like you said, BSU was that for me. I joined gospel choir. I cannot sing a lick. Because it was just, we had, that time of worship and fellowship and just, sometimes it would be like church going to our, practices. Yeah. And so that was, an experience that I was like, I'm going to do this because you just needed that just calmness and that peace to be able to get through all the other things, because we know that there are struggles and challenges, but when you come home, when you come to your group, it just makes everything better. So.
And I think how we cultivate family on this campus really does affect it in a positive manner. I've had friends from all different backgrounds come into AEP, now the Center for Inclusive Engineering Excellence, and be like, what? You telling me A, there's this many of you, but B, the vibe is different. The conversation is different. The intentionality is different. It just feels different. And it's contagious. They love it, right? Yeah. As they say, no one does it like we do it. And I think as we go into whether it's involvement, whether it's research, whether it's the classroom, whether it's post-graduation, that contagious atmosphere, that contagious feeling, it keeps on pouring and pouring out because we cultivate families so well on this campus.
Right. Not even stepping foot on campus yet. And I had one of my friends, Brittany, in AP, contact me and was like, hey, we have a study group for this class. Would you want to come with us? So that's literally not knowing anybody at all, not even really involved in AP yet. That's how I got inside AP. She reached out to me personally and was like, hey, come in with us for this class real quick so we can figure stuff out. So
I have to say that about you engineering folks. Yeah. Is that y'all are very welcoming. I spent a lot of time, that's how I know so many people in engineering. I spent a lot of time there because I'm like, what are they doing over there? You're right. I wanted to get, but everybody was so welcoming. I would study over there. I would do all those things because it was just another way to connect with people and to just be amongst others and to get some math homework when I help homework.
And that's part of why we're part of the Black Alumni Council, because we saw so many give back. We were here when Dr. Weatherby was still trying to get the program lifted off the ground and get support and buy-in. we were here when he just brought a few of us in the room, and Dr. Overton Jinda, who was also part of COSAM, who was trying to cultivate getting that sense of family and financial support, as well as academic support. And you see that it's grown, where Alabama Power came in, and now it's inclusive for excellence. These are the things that we want to see grow and continue on. But it starts with us at the table, and also alumni coming back, as Sheriff was saying before. So it's good to see. I mean, our struggles were trying to find us, and then where to get your hair done, where to get a haircut,
Yes.
where to get academic support.
Working to get some
Still
food.
working.
Where to get some food.
We're still working on those. We're getting there, though. We're getting there.
But those are now the least of our worries
Right.
compared to the other. So
Right.
that's amazing to see how we've grown through the family.
And then I think that, this younger crew just has a boldness about them that we maybe didn't have, Joe. I don't know. It's just different. I love to see it. I have 2 kids here, so I get to kind of get a front row seat of it. And I'm just like, the boldness, some of the things that Jordan will tell me that he's, applying for this, or he's doing this, or he's in this organization. I'm like, we would never, but, I'm just glad to see the boldness. And I think that has really helped to make your experience a little bit more fruitful as well. So.
And then the traditional pies. Gospel choir is like a rite of passage, it seems, for most
absolutely.
African Americans that come through here. And then Black Student Union, that's a toss. It's usually BSU or NSB, or a little bit of both, depends on your track. But those are the things that are always supportive. And then, like you said, the non-traditional would have been student recruiter, possibly in certain regards, and then tour guide. And then we started branching into the SGA, being senators and cabinet members. So it's great to see everyone kind of flourishing. And we just had the first African American female president of SGA not long ago. That's strides you probably never thought in 20 years.
Yeah,
But
and we had Brandon when we were here. I think you may have been gone, because I think he
I
might
had
be
just
a
left.
year younger than I am. Yeah, so I think I may have been a senior. I can't remember, but yeah. And then Tashana Stokes she was Tashana Thomas at the time, but ran for Miss Auburn, and we all banded together to campaign for her. And to see that, it was just like, wow, that's just something that you wouldn't think would happen on a campus like this, but it was. And so I think that those things have given you all the motivation to be so bold and to try opportunities that you think aren't really for us. So.
And each decade pushes the other, or each 4 years pushes the other group to do more. We had our second SGA male Black president when I was here in Winston, and he did a director of minority involvement. He had never done a position like that before, and that was controversial. But through that, we had our first African-American female cheerleader in the 95, 96 timeframe, which you kind of think, seems like a long time ago, but then you also think, it's been a long time since we never had one. We just never had a female. That was our first one. Remember Dawn coming through, and she had a lot of pressure, but she could do it. She did the job. She had a lot she went through, but that started the foundation, to your point, of breaking down barriers and getting more people involved and motivated. But that's just some of the things that, when we look at Auburn through the decades, it's definitely transitioned from a lot of that was mainstay part of the pushback, to now that's no longer accepted here. People pushing back and having these bold opportunities for people to actually step into that boldness and show your greatness.
I know for our group that boldness kind of relates to that COVID environment. What's so great about Auburn is oftentimes, upperclassmen they pull you up with them. I pay so much homage to my freshman mentor every individual day for the person that she has helped me become, to the Black man she has helped me to become. But when COVID happened, we saw at least 2 classes of people either didn't get the same mentorship or weren't the same mentors. So now you have people coming into this spaces having to have and be and figure it out as they go and be so bold and be so intentional. And I think now, looking back at going into the latter part of my Auburn career, that we're seeing the culture intentionally change and morph into what it was supposed to be, coming out of 2015. If I don't recall the wrong numbers, I think our diversity numbers have taken a hit in the last 6 years. And COVID's a great part of that. The academic rigor of our programs are a great part of that. So now we're trying to, of course, get us back on that track to climb out of that deficit, but at the same time intentionally mold and increase and better that campus culture for the average Black student.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because that kind of makes me think, what do you all think is attributes to that? You talked about COVID and you talked about the rigor, but what about those students that get here and just feel like it's not for them? What do you make of that?
I've seen a lot of friends leave. Of course, the classwork is a lot, and I understand that, but some people really don't have that community, or they just didn't, maybe not try to put in the effort, or they just didn't find their specific people. But I really can understand why some people want to leave, but if maybe, I don't know what we can do to help it, but I feel like we should definitely step it up with something to retain those people to stay,
Well, for me, I think one thing to take into account is you can kind of start with your high school experience. So I went to Hoover High, which, that's a predominantly white area. So, and I was in advanced placement classes. So, I came in, was familiar with the environment of being like one of the only black faces in the classroom. And so when I came to Auburn, I was, sort of in that same, classroom environment, and I was kind of used to it. But I was able to find like VSU and find that black community, and that was great for me. And you can also look at it from the different perspective. Say you're coming from a school like Ramsey High School or Inner Birmingham City School, and then you come to Auburn, and now for the first time in your life, you're in an environment where you're the only black face in some of these classes. And I think that if there's anything we can do to sort of mold those two experiences and like make sure that we strengthen our black community, it'll be great. And I think that'll help with like retention.
In conversation wise, thinking back, I know on my Auburn experience alone, and some conversations that I've had within the last 8 months, it dang near brings me to tears, because like Christian, I grew up in a primarily white environment to where I was the only individual who looked like me, sounded like me, dressed like me within the environments in high school. So coming to Auburn, I was ready for that, but I didn't understand the value and the importance of cultivating the family and the community within people who have the same backgrounds that you do, share the same culture that you have, and that look like you. And how that relates to your success in a primarily white environment. You need it. It's a part of your success equation. And being a student recruiter, being involved in SGA, I've had individuals come to me and be like, how do you do it? I think all my friends say the same thing. I'm always the Auburn guy in orange or blue. I'm always, War Eagle this, War Eagle that. I'm ready for a game. I'm ready for basketball. I'm ready for a tailgate. No matter what I'm doing, I've always been that Auburn guy, right? Auburn man through and through. I bleed orange and blue. And they're like, how do you love something that doesn't seem like it loves you back? How do you intentionally go about developing something that you weren't developed in? And that is where you really rely on, for me, what I say is the history. Look at the individuals who have come out of this program, come out of this institution, look what they're doing now. And if you're not plugged in, let's go get you plugged in. It's nothing but a conversation with an administrator or with a senior or a junior or with an alumni that can dynamically change your life. I like to say that an experience or a decision to stay at Auburn can forever change the trajectory of your life. You just have to get bought in. And if you don't have the right person, directing you down that path, you can get lost. It can get scary. You can want to leave. So to anyone that's watching this, I would say, just ask for help. I think on campus, we see each other. We all know, we see each other. So whether you know them or not, we see each other. So go up to them in the dining hall, say what's up. There's conversation beyond the head nod, right? If you're in class, we all sit together. Whether it's in the front T section, on the side, no matter where I go, I'm gonna sit by them. That's where my success is. So that's just really important. Conversations like that.
What are the things that we could do as alumni to further and foster the folks who want to stay, make it more supportive, and then those that are looking to go, what's the message that we can bring back to support them? Outside of financials, because that was the biggest deterrent. We're working on that part. Folks, alumni are giving, and that's part of everyone's issue, right? If the money's not there, it's a very serious conversation, no matter how much you love Auburn, if the money's not there. So we're working on the financial support, but what are the other things? In addition to financial support, what are the things that we could do as Black alum that can help foster that sense of family, show it to folks who either are here or want to stay here, but just don't feel like they're accepted?
Sure.
A little loaded.
How do I say that? I would say Auburn is very much so known for being a Southern institution. Oftentimes the weight of who you are and where you may come from carries tribute to how you walk into a space and or a room. And I think oftentimes as people of color, we forget that, as we morph out of our different environments. I think that standing on the backs of the people that came before you are very important no matter what you're doing. And our white counterparts do that so well, but oftentimes we forget because we frown down upon it, right? So I think with you guys being so involved on campus, with you guys coming back and pouring your heart, your minds, and even your money into making the Black Auburn experience better for all, that there needs to be more intentional conversations and action on behalf of the student body and the alumni presence to cultivate that mentorship, get people plugged in, change those lives intentionally, because we come in big-eyed. I know I was like, oh, that's a Black man. Wow. Like where I come from, there weren't many Black men wearing suits. There weren't many Black engineers. There weren't many people who were doing the things that we see as normal within the Auburn family every day. So when I got here, I was my jaw was just on the ground. And I ran to it because I wanted that experience. I wanted more of that because outside of my family, I had never experienced that. And because I ran to it, I can happily say that it changed my career, it changed my major, my first ever internship because of that cultivating, and it really has changed my Auburn experience and made me a better Black man.
I would definitely say a lot of alumni getting involved in 100 Women Strong and different things like that. Because when I was in 100 Women Strong, they didn't have many Black women to mentor me. Even I would say I even asked for a certain mentor, but she wasn't in mechanical. So it's I'm sorry, we can't give you this person because she's not mechanical. So I would say a lot of people just need to get into those type of things. Also with NSB, if you have your company wants to support us, come and talk with us. That's a simple thing. We have Tuesday meetings and a lot of companies, come in and talk to us. So that's nothing that alumni could do.
One thing I would think about is possibly helping with outreach and, reaching those places where we may not be reaching prior. Because I know for me, Auburn was a big deal at my high school. We had a bunch of people, oh, I'm going to Auburn. We probably had maybe 60 people from my graduating class coming to Auburn, where, you could be coming from a small, predominantly Black school, and, you're the only person that even applied to Auburn in your entire high school. And, just reaching out to those communities. And I guess also going into those communities, letting them know about Auburn and letting them know that, this is achievable for you and that, we go out and we do great things in the world after we, graduate from Auburn. And this isn't just a place where, you'll come in and you'll fizzle out because you can't find a community.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to hear because that would make a difference for us to be able to begin those conversations before, like you said, before they even start applying, even with juniors. I know one of the things that we do in the Birmingham Auburn Club is junior night. And so we could use those types of events as an opportunity to try to maybe round up more Black alumni so that students can begin to see it as Auburn as a possibility early on. So that was good to hear.
So I will say, opposite of y'all experience, I was very terrified to come to campus. I will say that just me as a person who went to a Black high school in my college before this was all Black. So coming here, I was I don't know what this experience is gonna have for me, but in the back of my head, I'm hey, I know what type of school Auburn is and what it produces. So let me go ahead and take that step, and get over this fear of what may happen and just go ahead and do it and see what happens. So I will say that. And
you mentioned what it produces. I had someone say something that really changed my perception of how intentional I need to be. I think it's 2 weeks ago. We had a Black recruit come to Auburn within the College of Engineering, and her mom and dad and the students sat there and said, we walked in and it was intimidating. We know what Auburn produces. We know the level of academic success that has come out of this institution. We know the type of person, the quality of a leader, and the quality of business, whatever may engineer that comes out of this institution. And we were prepared for that when we walked on the campus compared to our peer institution on the northern side of the state. There wasn't as much intentionality as far as, hey, how are you doing? That's usually not what you hear from people who come to Auburn, right? But we oftentimes forget that people who come to Auburn oftentimes don't look the same way that we do. And as Black students, we don't oftentimes, put out the amount of effort to stop and talk to that Black family that we see on a tour as our white counterparts would. And that affects their Auburn experience of how they come to campus. And she was it's intimidating. I walked into Brown Copeland and she was like, wow, it's definitely better than our other peer institutions, but at the same time, can I do it? Is it obtainable? And even, with outreach, we have, I think it's a really great thing within the state of Alabama alone, so many successful Black people live within the state who graduate from Auburn. That pours out into Georgia and any other state within the United States. And I think our success sometimes can be scary. The average junior in high school, wow, he or she's a VP. Wow, he or she, they own this, or they did this, or they won this award. I can't do that. But I think, portraying where we come from and how we came in and how we grew into it would really help within that outreach piece as well.
That's something we'll definitely take back. Jeff and I are both the newest members to Alumni Council, so we'll be looking for others, but we also are looking at what are the opportunities we have to, one, engage alum. What can they help with? What do students need? What are the things that y'all are being afflicted with that we did or didn't have in our time frame while we were here? One is having an outreach family environment, knowing where to go, who to see. But I think another, as we have now transitioned to alum, is how do we show up, to your point, to those folks who are considering Auburn? or these alumni opportunities where we may be giving out scholarships. Let people see us and they'll know and be able to understand it is possible, to your point. But when you also look at, I can't ever emulate the female experience, but I can also at least find other females who were part of Auburn and say, did you know about this night? We're gonna have people comment, can you at least reach out? I think having that umbrella of understanding who's part of the family, whether it's a cousin, aunt, uncle, get out and just kind of at least be able to talk to folks and know that it's possible. I think that's one of the things we definitely can look at in the alumni council and get engaged more.
Absolutely.
What are other things that y'all are seeing on campus? Do you feel welcome when you walk on campus, not just from African Americans, but through others? Are you feel accepted when you go into your classrooms? How is that environment?
Sure. I would say, I'm just going to be brutally honest. Auburn did a great job in my community cultivating me and showing me what the Auburn family was. And I got to campus and I had that same exact feeling. But I think the word is kinship. That's the word I'm going to use. The kinship that, we share and that others may share oftentimes can create a divider. Whatever that kinship may be outside of blood, it may be race, it may be socioeconomic status, whatever it may be. That kinship, while it can bring people together, can separate people as well. So coming onto campus, it was hard because, my white counterparts would go into a space or do something, and even if I knew one or two people in the room, they knew everybody in the room. Or, when it came time to recommend somebody for an organization or get somebody this or be that, you can be the most qualified, you can be the most engaged, you can be the most well-spoken, you can have the best resume, the best GPA, the best, CV within your coursework. And just because so-and-so shared that, whatever that kinship may be, an organization, background, like I said before, that leads first. And that could be a dividing factor. And that can also be a deterring factor for certain kids to not even want to get involved, but come to Auburn. I know so many people who's like, I don't care. Don't want to care. They don't care about me. I don't care about it. So I'm just not going to care. And there's power in caring. So I think for me, that has been one of the most instrumental things about my Auburn career is showing that I care, and then making sure that other people care, and make sure that everyone's seen, and find that relational aspect, that kinship, no matter what you look like, no matter where you come from. I want to be kin with you. We're all a part of the Auburn family, right?
Right.
So being intentional with that.
Yeah. Another thing I would add to that is that, it was a different experience for me, and I don't know where I would be if I hadn't to come in and had like those initial relationships, like for AAP, for instance, because it was still like a very big change. And if I had gone into classes and been like, oh, I'm the only black face, I don't know any other black people, I don't know like anything like that, it can be intimidating. And, it can be different because, you want to try to find people that you'll know and like, you'll be able to study with and things of that nature, and your friends. And, if you don't have that community, it's going to be hard for you to do that. And I think it was great that I was able to find that, but some people, don't find that, and it'll be two very different experiences. And then whenever we're talking about running for positions or joining organizations and getting involved, when I feel like it is a very different experience from the black community and then our white counterparts, as they may have a much farther reach. And when you have a much farther reach, the person that doesn't, it may be a deterrence, and it may discourage them from doing something. And luckily for us, like you were saying earlier, we're kind of bold, and we don't care. We'll go out and do what we got to do anyway. But when we talk about winning and and things of that nature, and like winning these actual races that you're running for, you still need to have a larger outreach, and that plays into trying to find a larger community, even outside of the black community here at Auburn, because that's what you need to get ahead in these organizations.
And I'm gonna get some detail I probably shouldn't, but I am. About my personal experience with that. I remember I said I want to be an SGA senator. I want to represent the College of Engineering. I know how many votes I need to get. I know who's all running. I interviewed, turned in my resume, interviewed for the ticket. I did not get chosen at all. Yeah. Cool. I'm not. If I wasn't meant to be in the room, I'm not gonna be in the room. That was cool. As long as I didn't meet that criteria on honest remarks. A person ended up not fulfilling their whole entire term. And the dean and a special selection committee had to select an individual. And there was a process that they went through, and I went through that process, and I got selected, and I served on the Senate. When I got into the room, I was just asking, meeting people, and so was like, "Oh yeah, I filled that spot on that ticket last year." I was like, "Oh really? Congratulations! How did you do? How did you interview?" "I didn't interview." Oh, okay. "Oh, did you turn in a resume?" "I didn't turn in a resume." "Oh, who got you this spot on the ticket?" "Oh, so and so just said it's open, and here you go." I was like, "Oh." I knew it, but for someone to say it to my face was another thing. And to this day, he might connect it now. He has not connected those dots. So now that I'm in Senate and I got the chance to run again and I was elected again, and I was able to choose my own ticket and say, who can be here, who can be where, and be honest and truthful and host true, interviews. That was really important to me. But the reach is a lot of things. And oftentimes I know within the College of Engineering, I can't be that involved within the greater diaspora of Black Auburn as I want to be, because my academic classwork, but also there's so much work to do within the College of Engineering, because the majority of Black people that go here are engineers, and that's the truth. So it just has to work on that reach.
And again, back to that boldness and asking questions, because if you sit back, you may miss opportunities, and knowing that is like, okay, I know this is how this is working, then I need to play the game a little bit differently possibly. And like you said, asking questions, knowing what your resources are, and not being afraid to reach out. We have a lot, like Joe was saying, of alums that are doing great things and that have so many connections. Introducing yourself to professors, because it's very different from high school. For me, I remember that, your teachers knew you, and you had made those relationships. You have to be intentional about making those relationships when you're here and when you're in a place like this, and even connecting with other students so that you can figure out resources that they're using, and just making different choices about how you do things based on the information that you have. A lot of times I feel like we're working so much harder than we have to.
Yeah, so true.
We work so much harder than we have to on some things, a lot of things about networking and, just being in the right place, being in the right room at the right time, and hearing conversations. And I think that's something that we have to be intentional about too.
And then educating each other, just to your point. Once you learn it, what's the skill set? We got the year they tried to get, one of the many years, they tried to vote out Black Student Union. It was during our Black History Month program. Never forget it. We were down in the old Foy Student Union. Our keynote speaker was actually about to go up on stage, and someone came and tapped. We didn't have cell phones then, so this is or you had them. It was like the Nokia old. So someone came, I remember, and tapped us on the shoulder. I was the president of BSU. We had K. Rob Thomas, Anthony Smith. They were part of our leadership team, and they said about the vote and whether or not y'all are going to be on campus. We stopped the program. We literally took the entire. So you think about 200-300 people that we had at the event. We had to put a pause. We said we got to go upstairs. They're literally about to vote us off campus. We marched into the Senate room, and they were in this small room, and we literally lined all the doors, and they gave us 2 minutes to speak. Again, they put this vote on the table, never knew anything about it. Someone tapped us, let us know about the vote is in or out, and we said our piece, and we asked for the grounds of why you think we don't need a Black Student Union. This was around 97, 98 timeframe, and they were asking, like, you don't need to be here, you're segregated. And we're like, no, we need here because of the camaraderie, the family. Can you tell me where to get my haircut? No, you can't. Can you tell me where gospel choir? Can you tell me where we go worship? They couldn't. And then he also saw the academic understanding of we need to have social events where we discuss things in a safe space for us. They voted it down to where we had our funding for the next year. And I'll never forget that Will took an application for the Senate because he asked, like, how do I become who you are, who are voting? And they said, he had to fill out an application to run for Senate. He filled out an application. That day, he was upset, of course. We all were upset, but we were relieved we got our charter back. But he ran for Senate as School of Architecture. He won. And then we found out this is how it's done. You're the folks making the decision. Here's how you get involved in the colleges. This is how you got involved to make sure that as those decisions come forward, as it goes through committee, put someone in place there to make sure that you have that voice in the room to try to stop it before it gets to that level. But those were kind of things, like, again, this is in the 90s, or late 90s, but that's the kind of issues and concerns we saw at Auburn at that day and age that we had to push through to get to the Auburn we have today. And that's why we're asking questions to see, we moved the needle, but then there's so much more to go. I couldn't imagine not being in engineering. Like, what was your safe hub here? Like, how did you get engaged and feel like, here's my family home? Did you have that before?
At BSU, definitely.
Yeah.
I was in Duncan Darling, so it's getting involved, and then, making those relationships with my roommates. But yeah, that was definitely gospel choir, of course. Just finding any opportunities, and AEP was it for me also, because if I knew where I could find some Black people, it was in the College of Engineering. So you go over there, and that's where you saw people on staff that looked like you, where you could ask questions and just get direction. So yeah, but it was being very intentional about, like I said, in a space that I had no business being. Gospel choir, I didn't have business in there, but it was important for me to be there because that's where I was able to get that connection. So yeah.
And that's why I applaud the people right now who are working within this space to ensure that there's an environment like AEP or the Center for Inclusive Engineering Excellence in every individual college, because
I
it is
agree.
instrumentally important to the success of students of color, or any student, in my opinion, a place to cultivate raw community. So to those who are doing those efforts, I always applaud them. And I hope to see their success. I know we have people on the board, people within our higher administration, people in the president's office who are making long strides in doing that, and I hope they're successful.
Tell me more about the OID. Like I hear my kids hanging out in the CCE.
Yes.
Tell me more about that. I was like, I don't know if we had something, so let me hear more about it, and then me and Joe can maybe decide. Like, did we have that or no? But it sounds pretty cool.
So we have like the Center of Inclusive Engineering Excellence, or AEP as it was formerly known. So when I'm usually over by all the engineering buildings. I have all my classes in Brown Hall. So when I pop into Brown Copel, like that's usually where like our hub is to meet, hang out, stuff like that. But also I have to go over to the
Student Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to go to the Student Center and go into what you're saying, the cross-cultural center for my bi-weekly meetings, because I'm the president of NESB, and we fall under like the OID realm as well. But every time I walk in there, that's where I can meet with other members of Black community that aren't in engineering, and they hang out there in there all day. They eat lunch in there, they study in there, and it's just a cool place to meet new people and expand on that Black community outside of the engineering realm.
I know other institutions, peer institutions in other regions and across the country, they have the Center for Inclusive Excellence. I always miss we have so many acronyms here, guys. It's hard. They have that, but on steroids, and it truly impacts their campus in a positive way. When I say steroids, I mean sometimes even whole buildings. I know how we at Auburn, we love a building, y'all. So I think it grows testament to show the power of that space. I think you walk, when I give a tour, it's around lunchtime, and I have a big group that can hear everyone laughing in the center. That's always great. You can always, when people are walking in one common area, people ask, what's in there? What's over there? And I love giving the rundown. I think Dr. Taffy Clayton is doing great work within our OID program, our associate provost. And I just hope to continue to see the effort from the alumni, from all different backgrounds, being poured into that program and poured into her efforts financially, especially, so we can cultivate and build the spaces that we need to succeed here at Auburn University.
So it's almost like, Joe, what I'm hearing, it's almost like how we used to hang out in Foy, but a designated area for them, and with guidance too.
With a full staff.
Yes.
Full staff.
That's awesome.
And scholarships.
That's awesome.
Yes.
How are the scholarships situations? Because that was another thing. We went from quarters to semesters, and so it was a lot shorter. You have to be here 2 quarters before you got the financial boot or the academic boot. So you had people here to maybe around March, April, and then that was it. Semesters kind of prolongs that. But when you look at the financial support, you had Dr. Dennis Weatherby helping. You had Dr. Overton Jenda helping. These are the early adopters of before you had MEP, Minority Engineering Program, then the AEP, and then now what we have this Center of Excellence. And you had Dr. Overton Jenda in the COSAM office just doing what he can to help support from DOE grants, things of that nature. And it expanded, and alumni are now giving back. Those who are benefiting are now trying their best to get back based on whatever means they can. What are the gaps that are still there from engineering and non-engineering that you think from your peers and yourself? What are the other things you can see?
So for me, I'm really glad that it's expanding, because I came to Auburn, for the visit, and I was like, okay, I want to come here, but the money not right. The money not right. I couldn't do it.
Right.
And, the large majority of the Black population at my high school, might have wanted to come to Auburn, but, the institution down the road, giving them the money.
Right.
So, they're going to go where the money is. And I'm just glad that it's expanding because, the people that want to come here and, love this place, if they can, get the financial aid they need to come here and, grow our community, it's going to be helping us in the long run and continuing to cultivate that community and grow that community.
And I've been doing some research on this because I'm thinking about making it a passion project for the later part of my SGA term. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like within the scholarships office, sometimes there might be like a limit or a cap. They stack scholarships, and I feel like especially for high-performing Black students, people who have close to those 4 rods, we fit the criteria for a lot, right? And we get those scholarships that are meant for Black people, and we also get want to hear another. But once we hit that ceiling, they're like, okay, that's enough. We try to spread this money across. And I don't know if that's an intentional thing done, but I think oftentimes isn't a great thing done. Because when you segment things up like that, and when you said, I don't know if it's an unofficial or official quota, it deters students. And also, as Auburn gets more expensive every individual year, what are we at? Did we do a 3% increase from last year, from last fiscal year?
Yes,
Scholarships don't have a 3% increase.
Right.
They don't. So Auburn gets more expensive and scholarships oftentimes don't.
Right.
So, and let's talk about the importance of the freshman scholarships too. Because if you lose those, you don't get those back.
Right.
And I think that, I know we now have a process to where if you go on academic probation, I don't know, they give you some leeway.
Yep.
But we have so many students who come here, who are seniors now, who had one bad semester and they lost it all and never got it back because of how Auburn is going about awarding funds. So I think looking at doing some intentional research of what other peer institutions do, and what they're probably doing is wrong too, and then involving a lot of student feedback into what they need to be successful here at Auburn, we would see the numbers turn around instantly when it comes to recruitment and money here.
And one thing I wanted to add to that, which a lot of people talk to me about, is the GPA requirement to keep your scholarships, which I think a 3.0, that's a good GPA, but realistically speaking, especially from an engineering perspective, a 3.0 is you're really good.
Right.
For some people that's really good, especially when you get into like your junior year and one bad semester, like Tylen said, can really like drop you off the map. And you might be able to recover, but if you already lost your money, that's a deterrence, and that's discouraging you because now you're just like, okay, I need to just try to get out of here, and you're not focusing as much on like your academic pursuits where you might have been excelling prior to losing that money. And also that plays into, if you're new to this sort of environment, but you are a good student, you might fall off the rails once or twice, but you'll pick yourself back up, and knowing that you still have that financial aid and that financial support can help you in that endeavor.
And let's add some validity to that statement, because oftentimes we say it and people don't understand it, right? So when you come here as a freshman, within 3 semesters, you're taking Cal 1, Cal 2, Cal 3, Chemistry, maybe Chem 2, maybe Orgo, Engineering Physics 1, Engineering Physics 2, Thermo. For me, Engineering Statistics 1, Engineering Statistics 2, and that's all before you're expected to go into your junior year. We don't have what we like to call fluffer classes. We're not sitting around when we come to our first semester here in Auburn, we're expected to succeed at a very high level. We're taking 3 or maybe 4 science and or math-based classes that are extremely hard that some people never take in their life.
Yeah.
And I don't think that freshmen should come in with all that weight on them to knowing that, hey, I got to make majority A's or I won't have a scholarship after my first semester and my mama gonna kill me. No, you can't have that on your back. I have a level 3.0, but I've been there. I've been like, I got to lay a strong foundation. And sometimes you have to compromise things to lay that strong foundation. And Auburn should not require people to compromise anything when it comes to laying a strong foundation here at Auburn University, or finding your wits about you, or being intentional within the classroom, or cultivating community. Because there is a learning patterns, and learning patterns take time. So why don't we give our students time?
Or at least give them a heads up on, here's the support you need as you're going to these first, you said 3 semesters. That's
especially for freshmen, because there's so many other things that you're dealing with. Academics, you're trying to adjust to a new environment. You're without your parents for the first time making decisions. There's a lot of pressure that I just probably didn't even think about it that way until you just said that. That is a lot of pressure to put on a student, especially when our friends down the road make it a lot easier. They make it a lot easier. 2 times, both of my kids had other opportunities that would have been nicer on my wallet, but it was important for them to come here. And so, we figured out how to make it happen. But, you're right. That is a lot of pressure to put on a student a freshman student with so many other challenges that they're having to work out.
I might put you on the spot real quick. So we're engineers, so we have a little bit of misunderstanding or difference in how we did it. I'm just curious. I'm going to go around the room or around the circle. What was the most expensive quarter semester, or what's the most you paid in books in one setting?
Ooh, for books.
That's usually for you or your kids, because you say you have kids now in college. So I'm just curious now, because that's one of the things we're also looking at. Is there some way alumni can support even partially to help to like just a book scholarship or something we can do?
I'm working on something.
I'm just curious, but yeah, I'm just curious because this was a
numbers wise.
Yeah.
Oh man.
my first semester was the worst. It was over $500, and it was a shell shock. Like I never paid that much.
I'm a numbers guy, so I have a spreadsheet. It's memorized. So okay, so we can run it
He's
down.
ready.
So I'm actually working on a project right now with NSJ to kind of figure out how we can help pay for students' books because it's outrageous. So whether you do an all access option, which that goes through your campus, you're paying on an average anywhere from $75 to $95 for the all access course. I don't know why you're paying that much to have virtual access to a book that you rarely use for per semester, not per year. So that can easily run up a $300 to $400 e-bill outside of your normal tuition. If you're within the College of Engineering, you have, for me, I have dang near a $1,500 engineering fee. I know we have nice things, right? We all love those nice things. But why am I dang near paying an extra $1,000 some and you basically call it tuition just because of my major, but I don't get the same back help when it comes to paying for those books and those lab fees or whatever else they may be that all roll in. And how that works into housing and meal plan, I think our 5, 10 or unlimited, basing it at $1,300 per person, that's a little unattainable for the average American within this economy. That's a lot. It's getting to the fact now that I think Auburn's getting close to costing around $37,000 a year for an in-state student. And no one is getting that in scholarships without some other outside aid or without some other outside loan or without other outside scholarships. When we have the means to do it right here in-house. Housing at Auburn, living on campus, is absolutely insane. Is it nice? Yes, I love my pool. Don't get me wrong.
Yo, wait.
Yeah, they're not living in the CDB.
We have to edit this part of it. You have a pool.
Yes, so
on campus.
Of course, we know, Auburn's had a hard time housing everybody on campus, so they went downtown and bought out 160 Ross or 91. I've lived in both. God is good, right? But they're coming at $6,800 a semester. If you do that math, we're paying a good mortgage, to live on campus, to share a space with somebody, and that's outrageous. And even your standard of living, whether you're in the Hill or whether you're in Cambridge, that is $4,500 or uppers of that number. That is still a lot of money compared to peer institutions up north, and they don't have a lot of the extra fees that I think that we have. Now, I could be wrong, but even if I am wrong, it's still a problem.
And then I was gonna say, with those fees, it kind of deters people from living on campus, and I know that's I feel like that's a pivotal experience to have when you're coming to a new institution. Just being able to build that initial community, because it's different from meeting people in your classes to actually living with somebody for an entire year. And well, to your previous question, my most expensive year was my freshman year because I was living on campus. I had some scholarship money, so I didn't have to pay extraneous amounts, but much more than I've ever had to pay for school before. And my mom was talking to me like, oh, you might have to take out a loan, and I'm starting to think, oh, I don't want to go into debt. And so I ended up having to take out like one loan for that first year. But luckily, I moved off campus the next year, and that heavily put down my cost. So living on campus, and I'm an RA now, so I live on campus still, but it's different because it's free. But I think even though I have the scholarship money that I have now, and it's a good amount, if I was just a student that wanted to live on campus with the meal plan that I have to have that's required, plus the housing, the housing cost, especially for an upperclassman student, because when you get to those upper class, once you get to be an upperclassman, there's only limited amounts of space that you can actually room on campus, because the majority of the on-campus living is specifically for freshmen.
Got it.
So when you get to those upperclassmen and you still want to live on campus, the dollars start going up. So the most expensive places are for those upperclassmen, and that is also a deterrence. So just trying to find a way where if you want to stay on campus, make it a little easier, or, find funding for those aspects. Because as it goes up, as cost to attend goes up, those things are going to be important, especially like the meal plan. Because there's some people, 1,300, that's a lot.
Base too.
That's a lot. Base, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's gone up even just from from me being here, because my freshman year is on 1,100, and then last year I only had to pay $375 because I was living off campus, which I was like, okay, that's cool. But when I came back on campus, even though I got the free housing, now I'm on campus, so I have to pay more for dining, which I
Right.
may not be using that dining. So
Yeah.
it's just something to think about and try to
Mm-hmm.
continue to consider.
Yeah, definitely with the engineering fee. I remember my first semester here, and I was like, "What is this? Why am I paying $1,500 a year for random labs I will never touch, I will never see?" And maybe if they could work something out with that too, that would be the best thing. But my most expensive year, I would say my last fall, because I spent at least like $500 in books, and then plus some classes have online access and stuff like that, which is you have to have, but of course you're still paying for it. It doesn't disappear. Maybe you have to pay later on, but it's still there. So
I think the important thing to remember is that once you go through your experiences are going to help the next group. So I feel like we can't abandon the Auburn family once we graduate. I think it's our duty to help the next one. We talked about how those that came before us helped us, motivated us, encouraged us, and has provided that pathway for us to be able to make it a little bit easier. I think it's our job to make it a little bit easier for the next group. So any experience that you can share with people, even things like your own experiences, or if you have the opportunity to go back, to recruit or whatever it is, I think that it is our duty to do those things to try to help the next group.
yeah.
And
Go ahead.
okay. Well, to add on to that, I think that we have to do that if we want to continue to improve and continue to have people coming in and growth. If we want to continue to have growth, we have to continue to cultivate and help those people that are coming after us. And I think that it starts with you come in, you have the people that help you out, and then you need to go down, either freshman, sophomore, help those people out. So that encourages them to continue to help, people, and, to tell people about Auburn and, all the amazing things that are happening here. So to get more people even just interested in coming to this institution.
I would definitely say, just with the freshmen and sophomores that we have now, as you guys seen, it's kind of hard to get them to come into these meetings. So definitely outreach with them and make sure that they understand that, hey, this community is very important. You need to come in and talk with us and, learn from everybody, from all of our experiences. So.
Yeah, mine's not much different from what you all said. When I came to Auburn, unless you had a jersey or a number or some type of academics, you really weren't known on campus. You didn't know whether that support was there. And a lot of us before us tried to cultivate that, and we continue the same legacy. And that's why we're back on the Black Alumni Councils. How do we bring others into the fold? These types of conversations need to be held regionally. These types of conversations need to be held more often. First time I met you all as fellow engineers, but I'm very glad to see how you all prosper, grown, and come up in your own way and really put your print on Auburn. But I think that's part of why we joined. It was an open opportunity to join the Alumni Council to further what we learned and what we want to help cultivate with campus, and we want to bring that back. And y'all shared some amazing ideas.
Yes.
Our committee meetings coming up, we're going to start implementing some of these as far as, one, getting FaceTime with alumni at regional events, getting FaceTime with alumni on campus, but also what can we do from a financial perspective? Is there something even as small as a book scholarship that gives some people less stress? So those are the things we probably want to at least start cultivating, trying to get that sense of, one, just get back to campus, help spread the word of who we are, but then also show up at these opportunities where people may not ever see you. So this has been amazing. This is a great way to start out and kick off what our 2-year journey that we just started with. So this has been amazing. Thank you all.
And looking back, from a broader perspective, we just celebrated 150 years of agriculture and engineering here at Auburn University just this fall. And we have only been allowed, and when I say we, I mean people that look like us, to go here for a little, dang near a third of that time. And look how far we've come, right? So going into the next 150 years, the next 50 years is going to take us being intentional and understanding that we're not too far removed from the fight. I know sitting in class, when people be like, oh, Jim Crow was in the 70s? Yes, my grandfather was alive. You know, he was in the school. You know, remembering that, you know, we aren't too far removed from the fight, that there is power in these conversations, there's power within our actions, and, you know, it's never too soon or too late to ask for what we deserve and then some, because we have time to make up for it, right? So I think that as we go throughout our times here at Auburn, whether you're a student, whether you're an alumni, whether you're an administrator, to be intentional in cultivating, you know, the world that you want to see for your children, for yourself, for your grandchildren, because at the end of the day, we will all love for things to be fair. We will all love for everyone to have this opportunity, but we're not going to get close to that without putting in that level of work that great people put in, like Martin Luther King Jr., or like Harold A. Franklin, or like they weren't, you know, they didn't come out of the birth groundbreakers, right? They didn't come out, you know, swinging with the best of them. They learned that, hey, this fight is good as well mine as anybody else's, and I'm going to do something about it. And they chose to do it day in and day out. And I think we all have the power, no matter what seat we sit in or what seat we aspire to sit in, to affect and have that same amount of change.
Yeah.
All right. So last question I'm gonna ask you, and I'll stop bugging you all the rest of the day. What's been your favorite Auburn tradition for those of you that you'll remember and you take with you as you start? And it may not make sense to everybody who never went here, but for the folks who went, what will be your favorite tradition you're leaving with?
I'll say at least like the toilet paper rolling. I mean,
Rolling tumors?
that's you know, that's definitely unusual. That's just like an Auburn, you know, staple. So
Unless it's Halloween at somebody's house.
yeah.
Or homecoming.
Or homecoming, yeah.
I wouldn't say it's like a specific tradition, but one thing I'll never forget is the atmosphere on game days and just the camaraderie of all the Auburn fans. You know, I think that is a special experience, and, you know, going to tailgates now, because the company I intern with has tailgates, and just, you know, going to them and just seeing how engaged they are, and, you know, I think that's an experience unique to Auburn, and I know other institutions may have, you know, something similar, but I don't think I would trade it for the world. So that's, you know, something that I definitely will cherish.
I would kind of say the same thing. There's power in the game day weekend, you know, starting in the traffic on Friday afternoon. The best tour to give is on Friday afternoon because campus is like lively, right? There's power in the tailgate. There's power in, you know, sitting in the student section. The swag surf, it's iconic, right? We've all done it. We all love it. You know, there's power in rolling tumors after. It's all part of one big experience that cultivates down. And it's hard to say in one weekend, but it changes lives. It's great.
And mine is something so small, but it's so big. I think it's just the War Eagle. I mean, being in the airport, being wherever, being at work, and, you know, people coming by your office and seeing your Auburn swag, and then, you know, hitting you with a War Eagle. It gets me every time. I think that's one of my favorite things. It's just that no matter where you are, if I'm, you know, in St. Lucia, or if I am, you know, wherever, you know, when you hear that, it's like home.
Right.
You feel it's, you know, it's, I think it's.
Even when they didn't go here, right?
Right,
It's been like,
right.
I don't go around saying Roll Tide, y'all. I really don't. But even when they didn't go here, they're like, War Eagle. I was like, you graduated? No, I just know.
I think mine's that was a good one. I didn't think about. That's one of the best traditions. Mine's, as silly as it sounds, it's heyday.
Yeah.
I loved heyday when I was on campus because there's no other place I know you can. Well, I said in New York, and you get kind of weird mixed reviews, but heyday I think is one of the ones I like. And then of course, second is being able to identify the Auburn family with the War Eagle, no matter where you are, when they see the colors and the symbol. So.
Whoa.